prime bird-watching from that desk.
Tyranny launched late last year as part of Obsidian's take in the revitalization of the CRPG genre. And although I was quite critical of Tyranny at the time, it didn't take away from the fact that I certainly enjoyed it. Post-release DLC then is an interesting subject for gaming and the title's lifespan. When done correctly, it can cause former players to flock back and relive the original experience anew through additional gameplay options or entire story sections. Or it can simply fix core issues the title used to have. Bastard's Wound mainly relies on the former, but the implementation of it as a returning player isn't nearly as seamless as you might hope.
A shame the neighbors are floating abominations.
In essence, I originally praised Tyranny for being a very competent reactive RPG with a beautiful thematic execution and an interesting setting, well worth playing simply by that measurement. On the other hand, I believed it thoroughly lacked mechanical prowess bordering on immensely simplistic combat and behind-the-scenes systems that invalidated a lot of potential build creativity, especially on the higher difficulties, with heavy armor being irrelevant, accuracy being king, and spells being borderline overpowered. Sadly, nothing has changed regarding those last points, beyond the crucial quality of life implementation of respeccing as part of the base game. And without repeating word for word what I said in my review of the core game, Bastard's Wound is not going to affect how you will feel about the title mechanically. Crucial then is to talk about the way Bastard's Wound is integrated into the title. Bastard's Wound Titular Edition is an entirely new zone, but perhaps the most enjoyable parts are the new companion quests for Lantry, Barrack and Verse, especially the latter two. In order to access Barrack and Verse's companion quests, you can't start the expansion beyond Act 2, as the first half of their additional storyline takes place during those events. Lantry's quest is part of the new zone, and although it can be accessed during both Act 2 and Act 3, starting up a save located in Act 3 will virtually ruin your entire experience, as none of the choices made during Act 3 are recognized. Simply put, don't ever start Bastard's Wound with a save in Act 3. What you then get out of Bastard's Wound is roughly anywhere between 5 to 10 hours of content. In my case, it took me about 8 hours to get through it all on the highest Path of the Damned difficulty, with about 5 hours dedicated to the new zone and 3 hours to finishing up the companion quest content. Bastard's Wound itself starts with a missive from a person simply referred to as Sage L. The quest trigger should happen upon clearing either the Bladegrave Old Walls or finishing the Lethean's Crossing questline, but in my case I immediately ran into a bug where the game save I was planning to use, situated at the very end of Act 2, didn't have the appropriate quest flag, which meant I couldn't normally trigger the new content. Luckily this was easily fixed with a console command. The missive sent by Sage L states that they are willing to submit to your authority as a Fatebinder of Tunon, providing you meet them in person and hear out their simple request. A vague prelude into what turns out to be quite the conventional set of quests. However conventional as it may be, Bastard's Wound is certainly made enjoyable through Obsidian's writing. A small issue here is that the subject material in Bastard's Wound feels far less crucial than the pacing at which the main storyline is moving at that point. Considering this is all meant to take place during Act 2, and indeed is ruined upon trying to do it with a save past Act 2, this all happens during a point in time when you are incredibly busy as a Fatebinder, and going on this rather mysterious and self-contained mission creates for an odd lag of urgency. Nevertheless, looking past those small points, Obsidian provides yet again a lot of narrative freedom. You can be nice, you can be mean, you can simply murder everything you run across. Either way, there's a lot of solid flexibility in how you approach every conversation in Bastard's Wound. Luckily, Bastard's Wound doesn't forget your conquest and background choices either, with both having quite a few prompts to influence your current situation. Essentially, this all takes place in a new section of the Old Walls, the mysterious dungeons scattered across the tiers, and is something the core game didn't give that much lore world building attention to. But as flexible and generally well written as the new zone is, it's not without its own flaws in that department either. The main driving purpose is in fact rather weak, as you're meant to be put into a power struggle of sorts but neither know nor really have any reason to care about the respective parties. Secondly, although it's great to have the option to do so, putting everyone to the sword does lock out a few too many choices for me to find it a worthwhile direction to pursue, especially in the game that is meant to promote such harsh actions. Companion quests are then the other large addition in the Bastard's Wound DLC and are exclusive to Lantry, Barrack and Verse. In fact, Lantry's is directly connected to the new zone, the Bastard's Wound, and sadly is also inferior compared to the other two companion quests, mainly, yet again, due to its implementation. Before this expansion, I frankly thought Lantry was easily one of the least interesting companions in Tyranny, an interactive lore exposition for the most part, and post-expansion I still mainly think of him that way. Whereas Barrack and Verse show some beautiful dysfunctional elements in their story and truly seem to struggle along the way, Lantry doesn't go much beyond what he already is established as. Worse, however, is the actual mission involved in his companion quest. The design of his quest is such that you have to scour the entirety of the new Bastard's Wound zone, trying to find items that are hidden until they get in very close proximity with Lantry. Luckily, I naturally play through these types of games as a rather thorough player and tend to look around every corner, but I imagine for people less inclined to be a completionist, his quest will simply be incredibly obnoxious, as you have to backtrack and look under every crevice in the old walls to find, essentially, collectibles. Next, we have Barrack and Verse, frankly the story content that I ultimately found the most engaging in Bastard's Wound, and it is truly well written while fleshing out most of their story. In both cases, especially Barrack's, you truly understand and see the struggle that they are under by following you and because of their immediate background. Verse had previously been my favorite companion of Tyranny, while I cared relatively little for Barrack, albeit mostly due to his uselessness in combat. But both of them come out of the DLC as even stronger, better rounded characters with more satisfying conclusions to their story. And ultimately that is what Bastard's Wound boils down to. It's an expansion through dialogue and story. If you're looking for new gameplay challenges or changes, there are none to be found here. At most, the new zone tries very weakly to shake combat up a tiny bit by combining Bane and human forces, but regardless, there's sadly nothing to look at from a combat perspective. Bastard's Wound is then at an odd position for returning players. If you previously enjoyed Tyranny, you'll certainly enjoy Bastard's Wound for its story, but the combat is still repetitive. However, you either need to start all over again or happen to have a save lying around from Act 2. If you're new to Tyranny, Bastard's Wound is by no means essential for your enjoyment, but does help flesh the entirety of it out a little bit more. Although the other companions aren't forgotten and have their own dialogue prompts during the new Bastard's Wound zone, the main players are certainly Barrack and Verse, and their stories are both the most relevant and most enjoyable additions to this expansion, as Bastard's Wound finds the time crucially missing from the core game to properly flesh out their story. Bastard's Wound makes a solid effort at expanding the established lore and world building of Terratus, but it doesn't do anything remarkable. The new companion quests are a highlight, and the new zone is enjoyable, albeit largely irrelevant and relatively small. By no means essential, Bastard's Wound is a small increase for those already enjoying the title, but nothing more. Thank you for watching, my name has been Haas, and I'll see you in the next video.